The Super Bowl IX halftime show down in New Orleans ended up being a tribute to the late jazz legend Duke Ellington, who had passed away at the age of 75 less than a year before the game. The tribute was performed by Ellington's only child, Mercer, and featured the marching band from Grambling State University. 45 years ago, this was the plan for the halftime show. Want to see what the original plan was?
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for
The heart-stopping,
fun-loving, hard-rocking,
booty-shaking, love-making,
Super Bowl quaking, history-making, legendary E Street Band?
That's right. The original plan for the Super Bowl IX halftime show, believe it or not, was to have the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen, take the stage. And this is the story of the league's plan to make it happen. Now, before I talk about Super Bowl IX, it's important to talk about the first 8 Super Bowls and their halftime shows. I'm a bit of a halftime show nut, so this will definitely not be the only video I'm going to make about the history of the halftime show. However, the halftime show at the Super Bowl did not used to be the giant spectacle that it is today, with A-list artists and poorly made SpongeBob tributes. It used to be marching bands. Of the first 8 halftime shows, the biggest name that the league got was Andy Williams, who still appears on your radio every Christmas season. And Williams played only a small part in the show, as the University of Michigan Marching Band was the main star. But in the second half of the 1970s, the league wanted to get away from marching band halftime shows. As the Super Bowl itself was growing and growing in popularity, they wanted the halftime shows to be unique, and not just something you'd see at your average college game or even your average NFL game. At Super Bowl X, they brought in Up With People. At Super Bowl XI, they brought in a Disney production. Both shows want to make me stab my eyes out. But you could sense that around this time, that the marching band halftime shows were starting to die out. And 1 year before that, in preparation for the Super Bowl IX halftime show, they contacted Bruce Springsteen himself to see if he was interested. And Springsteen turned it down. I'm not sure what's odder, the fact that Springsteen was offered the halftime show, or the fact that he turned it down. At this point in his career, Springsteen only had 2 albums out. None of his songs were hits. Born to Run wouldn't be released until August of 1975, so he didn't even have that hit in his back pocket. Yes, he had Blinded by the Light, but that didn't become a hit until August of 1976, when Manfred Mann's Earth Band covered the song and took it to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. At this point, not that Bruce was a no-name, but he was nowhere near the star that he would become. And most of the general public born in the USA definitely did not know who he was, which makes it somewhat odd that Bruce declined the invitation. The year before, Super Bowl VIII on CBS averaged 51.7 million viewers, and it brought in a total US viewership of 63.2 million people. In the first half of the 1970s, the Super Bowl, year after year, broke television records. This was a massive television audience. If this was someone like James Taylor or Elton John declining to play the show, it makes a bit more sense. Both of those artists had massive followings, they didn't need the Super Bowl, and would have made more money doing other gigs. If you didn't know who Elton John was back in 1975, then you were living under a rock. But Bruce Springsteen? Again, he had no hits. He had no recognizable songs at the time. This would have been an opportunity for a relatively unknown artist to play in front of 70 million people, and he turned it down. But ultimately, the gamble paid off for him. Springsteen went on to become one of the biggest stars in music throughout the next 2 decades, and he's still selling out venues left, right, and center across the world today. And eventually, Springsteen had a change of his hungry heart and played at Super Bowl XLIII in 2009 to rave reviews. The Super Bowl that he performed at back in 2009 was the 6th time ever that Pittsburgh won the title. but over 3 decades before that, he had a chance to perform at their first.